First Contact Protocols. Supreme Commander Zextrol of the Galactic Confederation floated in his command sphere, all 6 of his sensory stalks rigid with disbelief. The emergency transmission pulsed across every communication frequency in the Rigel sector, its automated warning repeating in 37 languages. Wo ar nang. Unidentified vessel, DETCTD in restricted zone delta. Purilinanine ARI scans. NDITA, human and origin. All Confederation SETs, ADVICD, to maintain distance. Humans. Zextrol's voice resonated through the fluid-filled command chamber. Impossible. Their primitive civilization was assessed as pre-spaceflight barely a century ago. His second-in-command, Vice Commander Nelvex, approached with evident concern. Her bioluminescent skin flickered in the pattern denoting extreme caution. The warning originated from Outpost Kappa 12, she said. They'd gone silent since transmission. We've dispatched Scout Fleet Epsilon to investigate. Zextrol's nutrient sacs pulsated with irritation. If humans have somehow stumbled beyond their solar system, they'll be cataloged and contained like all primitive species. Their planet is mostly water. They evolved from aquatic animals. Hardly a threat. 4 hours later, Scout Fleet Epsilon, comprising 15 advanced reconnaissance vessels, arrived at Outpost Kappa 12. The fleet commander opened a priority channel to Confederation High Command. Outpost destroyed. No survivors. Scanning indicates weaponry of unknown configuration. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Proceeding to locate intruder, they didn't have to search long. A single vessel appeared on their sensors, moderate by Confederation standards, approximately 1 kilometer in length. Its design defied conventional spacefaring principles. No gravitational stabilizers were visible. No radiation venting. No recognizable propulsion system. The ship's hull was matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, making it difficult to focus optical sensors on its surface. Human vessel identified. The fleet commander reported, moving to intercept and establish communication protocols. The scout vessels surrounded the human ship in standard first contact formation. The fleet commander transmitted the Confederation's universal greeting across all known communication spectrums. Unknown vessel, this is Scout Commander Vriltek of the Galactic Confederation. You have entered restricted space and approached a Confederation installation without authorization. Identify yourself and state your purpose. After 17 tense seconds, a response came, not as the expected visual transmission, but as a simple audio signal in unaccented galactic standard. This is Captain Eleanor Chen of Earth Alliance vessel Defiant. We have not violated your space. The Confederation is trespassing in the quarantine zone established around Sol system 2 centuries ago by treaty with the Precursor Directive. Retreat beyond the boundary markers immediately. Vriltek was momentarily stunned. Precursor Directive. Quarantine zone. Such claims were preposterous. Humans had been under observation for centuries. Primitive, violent, barely able to reach their own moon. Earth vessel Defiant. Our records indicate no such treaty exists. Your species has been classified as pre-interstellar. Power down your systems and prepare for escort to Confederation space for processing and return to your homeworld. The response was immediate. Your historical archives are incomplete. The boundary markers are clear. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. Vriltek signaled for his vessels to activate containment fields, standard procedure for handling potentially hostile but technologically inferior species. Deploy non-lethal suppression measures, he ordered. Disable their propulsion and communication systems. 15 Confederation vessels fired simultaneously. Precision-targeted ionic disruptors designed to overload primitive electrical systems without causing physical damage. What happened next defied explanation. The human vessel seemed to shimmer, as though temporarily existing in multiple phases of reality. Where energy weapons struck, space itself appeared to bend inward, the disruptor beams curving back toward their sources. 7 scout ships immediately lost power, their systems completely overloaded by their own weapons. The human vessel made no visible counterattack, no energy signatures registered, no projectiles launched. Yet 3 more Confederation ships reported their navigation systems reconfiguring autonomously, plotting courses away from the engagement zone. They're inside our systems. Vril Tech realized with horror. All vessels, emergency shutdown and restart. Purge all systems. But it was too late. Within minutes, all 15 ships of Scout Fleet Epsilon had been neutralized, not destroyed, merely rendered inoperative. The human vessel remained in position, seemingly undamaged. Another transmission arrived from Captain Chen. This is your final warning. The Confederation has violated the quarantine zone established to protect both humanity and the greater galactic community. We will enforce the treaty if necessary. 2 days later, Supreme Commander Zextrol faced an emergency session of the Confederation Security Council. Representatives from all 23 member species attended via quantum projection, their expressions ranging from skepticism to outright terror. 1 human ship defeated 15 of our most advanced scout vessels. The Aaronic ambassador's crystalline form vibrated with disbelief. Impossible. The evidence is irrefutable, Nilevex stated grimly, displaying tactical footage. The vessel appears to utilize some form of phase-shifting technology. Our weapons either pass through it or are somehow redirected back at our own ships. What do they want? Demanded the Thrall representative. Have they made demands? None beyond our withdrawal from what they claim is a quarantine zone, Zextrol replied. Historical archives reports no record of any treaty with humans or this precursor directive they mention. The Mirani delegate, oldest among the council members, shifted uncomfortably. There are legends. Ancient records speak of a species that achieved technological singularity before the formation of the Confederation. They were said to have withdrawn from galactic affairs, leaving behind only warnings about certain regions of space. Fairy tales, scoffed the Aronak ambassador. We cannot allow primitive apes to challenge Confederation authority. Deploy the Sovereign Fleet immediately. Zextrol hesitated. The Sovereign Fleet comprises over 300 of our most advanced warships. If this human technology can be replicated, all the more reason to crush them now, interrupted the Thrall representative. If 1 ship can disable 15 of ours, what happens when they build more? Strike now, while we still hold numerical superiority. The vote was unanimous. The Sovereign Fleet would intercept the human vessel before it could retreat to its homeworld with knowledge of Confederation weaknesses. The Sovereign Fleet intercepted the Defiant near the Proxima Junction, a critical hyperspace nexus. The formation was impeccable, a 3-dimensional lattice of firepower designed to ensure no target could possibly escape. Admiral Kurzoth, veteran of the Centauri pacification, addressed the human vessel directly. Earth vessel Defiant, you have violated Confederation space and destroyed Confederation property. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded, or you will be destroyed. Captain Chen's response was calm, almost pitying. Admiral, we have neither violated your space nor destroyed your property. Your vessels were disabled, not destroyed. Their crews remain unharmed. This is your final opportunity to acknowledge the Quarantine Treaty and withdraw. Open fire, Kurzoth commanded. 300 Confederation vessels fired simultaneously, energy weapons of every configuration, gravitational disruptors, quantum torpedoes. The combined firepower could have shattered a small moon. The human vessel did not attempt to evade. Instead, at the moment of impact, reality itself seemed to distort around it. Space curved inward where energy weapons struck. Matter ceased to exist mid-trajectory. The Defiant flickered, as if existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. Then it responded. No visible weapons fired. No energy signatures registered. Yet 30 Confederation vessels simply ceased to function, their systems completely offline. Another 50 reported their navigation systems reconfiguring autonomously, plotting courses away from the battle. They're inside our systems again, Kurzoth realized with growing dread. This isn't technology, it's something else entirely. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 20 minutes. When it ended, the Sovereign Fleet, pride of the Confederation, had been thoroughly defeated without a single casualty on either side. Every vessel was intact but completely inoperative. The final transmission from Captain Chen to the disabled Confederation forces was simple. The quarantine was never meant to protect the galaxy from us. It was meant to protect us from you. Until your species evolve beyond aggression as first response, this boundary will be maintained. We will reactivate your vessels once we confirm your retreat. Remember this lesson. As Zextrol received the devastating news, an ancient alien artifact, long thought to be merely decorative in the Confederation archives, suddenly activated. Its holographic display showed clear boundary markers around Sol system and several surrounding sectors, regions the Confederation had recently begun exploring. The quarantine markers Captain Chen mentioned had been in their possession all along. We didn't know, Nilevex whispered, reviewing the data. The markers were there for centuries, but we never decoded them correctly. Zextrol watched as the human vessel methodically disabled the remaining Confederation presence within the quarantine zone, never destroying, merely neutralizing. It wasn't an invasion, he realized with growing clarity. It was a reminder. The revelation. For the first time, in its 12,000-year history, the Galactic Confederation declared a state of emergency. Representatives from all 23 member species gathered on the ancient capital world of Nexus Prime, their forms representing the incredible diversity of life in the known galaxy, crystalline entities that communicated through light, gaseous intelligences contained in specialized suits, multi-limbed arthropods, and sentient plant collectives. Supreme Commander Zextrol addressed the assembled War Council with uncharacteristic humility. The human vessel Defiant has neutralized our entire Sovereign Fleet without causing a single casualty. 300 ships disabled, 15,000 crew members unharmed but stranded until we retreated beyond what the humans call the quarantine boundary. We face an adversary with technology far beyond our understanding. The Aronak ambassador's crystalline form pulsated with anger. This is unprecedented. How could a species we classified as primitive 3 centuries ago possess such capabilities? The ancient Murani delegate shifted forward, perhaps because our classification was incorrect. The Archives Directorate has been searching our oldest records since this crisis began. We found disturbing inconsistencies. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing an ancient star chart dating back to the early days of the Confederation. This region, the Mirani indicated a large section of space, including the Sol system, was marked as restricted in our earliest navigational charts. No explanation was provided, but the restriction was observed for millennia. 8 centuries ago, during the Great Reformation, many such restrictions were reclassified, deemed superstitious relics from less enlightened times. Vice Commander Nilvex's bioluminescence pulsed with realization. The precursor directive Captain Chen mentioned. Could it predate the Confederation itself? Impossible, declared the Thrall representative. The Confederation is the first and only galactic governing body. The first that we know of, corrected the Mirani. Our history spans 12,000 years, but the galaxy is billions of years old. We may not be the first to reach the stars. Supreme Commander Zextrol made his decision. We must establish direct diplomatic contact with the humans, not through automated protocols or tactical commanders, but leadership to leadership. I will go personally to the boundary. 24 hours later, Zextrol's command vessel approached the invisible line that separated Confederation space from the human quarantine zone. The ship was unarmed, its power systems running at minimal capacity to demonstrate peaceful intent. Transmitting on all frequencies, announced the communications officer. Earth Vessel Defiant, this is Supreme Commander Zextrol of the Galactic Confederation. requesting direct communication with Captain Eleanor Chen. The response was immediate. A holographic projection materialized on the command deck, not the audio-only communication of previous exchanges, but a full visual representation of a human female. Captain Chen appeared to be of middle age by human standards, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed to hold wisdom beyond her years. "Supreme Commander, I appreciate your approach. For too long, our communications have been filtered through misunderstanding and fear." Zextrol's sensory stalks quivered slightly. "Captain Chen, I come seeking truth. Our records indicate humanity as a young, developing species, yet your technology surpasses anything in the Confederation. How is this possible?" Chen smiled, though the expression held no joy. "Your records were deliberately falsified centuries ago. Humanity achieved technological singularity over 500 years ago. We transcended conventional understandings of physics, biology, and consciousness. What you perceive as our ship is merely a physical interface for something much more complex. But we've observed Earth, your cities, your primitive rocket launches, your environmental struggles. What you've observed is a planetary preserve, a living museum maintained to protect those humans who chose to remain behind. The majority of our species evolved beyond physical forms centuries ago." Zextrol struggled to comprehend the implications. If this is true, why reveal yourselves now? Why maintain this quarantine? Captain Chen's hologram gestured, creating a three-dimensional display of galactic history, civilizations rising and falling across millennia. "Because we've seen this pattern before. When species achieve our level of technology without corresponding ethical advancement, the results are catastrophic. The Confederation itself was formed in the aftermath of such a disaster, though your histories have been sanitized to remove this truth." The display focused on an ancient conflict, a war that appeared to have devastated hundreds of worlds. 5,000 years before the Confederation formed, a species called the Valhari discovered dimensional phasing technology, the ability to exist partially outside normal spacetime. They used it to conquer and enslave dozens of worlds before they were finally stopped. "Stopped by whom?" Zextrol asked, though he suspected the answer. "By the precursors, a coalition of advanced species that included early humans. After the Valhari War, the precursors established the directive: monitor developing civilizations, prevent technological acquisition without ethical development, and maintain quarantine zones around species that achieved transcendence." And humanity transcended. Most of us, yes. What you perceive as our ship is actually a dimensional interface operated by post-physical human consciousness. We maintain the quarantine not to protect ourselves, but to protect the galaxy from premature exposure to technologies that require ethical frameworks to safely implement. As if to demonstrate, the Defiant suddenly shifted, its form becoming transparent, revealing complex geometric patterns that seemed to extend into dimensions beyond normal perception. The boundary markers were placed to warn the Confederation away from this region until your species collectively evolved beyond aggression as first response. When your exploration vessels crossed those boundaries and attacked our outpost, rather than attempting communication, you confirmed our assessment that the Confederation isn't ready. Zextrol's command staff watched in stunned silence as the implications became clear. The Confederation, which considered itself the pinnacle of galactic civilization, was being judged and found wanting by a species they had classified as primitive. "What happens now?" Zextrol finally asked. "That depends on you," Chen replied. "The Sovereign Fleet has been reactivated now that they've retreated beyond the boundary. We've shared enough information to validate our claims through your own archives. If you're willing to search for truth rather than comfortable fiction, and if we cross the boundary again, we would prefer peaceful relations, but we will enforce the quarantine if necessary. Next time, the response may not be so measured." 12 days later, the Confederation Security Council reconvened. The mood was somber as historical archivists presented their findings, evidence confirming everything Captain Chen had claimed. Ancient records, long sealed or deliberately misinterpreted, spoke clearly of the precursor directive, the Valhari War, and humanity's role in establishing the peace that eventually led to the Confederation's formation. For millennia, we've believed ourselves to be the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, Zextral addressed the Council. We've classified other species as primitive or developing based on arbitrary technological markers. The humans have shown us that true advancement isn't measured by weapons or ships, but by ethical development and the wisdom to use power responsibly. What are you suggesting? Asked the Ironic ambassador, their crystalline form subdued. That we accept the reality of our position. The quarantine zone will be officially recognized in all Confederation charts. Furthermore, I propose establishing a permanent diplomatic channel with the humans, not as superiors to a primitive species, but as students seeking wisdom from those further along the path. The vote was not unanimous, but the majority prevailed. The Confederation would recognize the human quarantine zone and establish diplomatic relations with Earth. 6 months later, a remarkable meeting took place at the newly established Boundary Station Alpha, positioned precisely on the quarantine boundary. Zextral represented the Confederation. Captain Chin, or rather, the post-physical consciousness that interfaced through her form, represented humanity. We've begun implementing the educational programs you suggested, Zextral explained, teaching nonviolent conflict resolution from the earliest development stages across all member species. The results are promising. Cultural evolution takes time, Chen acknowledged, but recognizing the need for change is the crucial first step. May I ask a personal question, Captain? Of course. Why do you maintain human form when interfacing with us? If your consciousness has evolved beyond physical constraints, why appear as you once were? Chen smiled, a genuine expression this time. Because bridges need familiar foundations on both sides. You understand physical forms, hierarchies, ships, captains. We maintain these interfaces because they're comfortable and comprehensible to you. And the real human appearance. How different is it? Chen's form flickered briefly, revealing a pattern of light and geometric complexity that Zextral's mind struggled to comprehend. Just as quickly, the human form returned. That's just a glimpse. Full revelation would be overwhelming to beings still anchored in four-dimensional perception. As the meeting concluded, a new era of galactic relations began. The Confederation established the Office of Ethical Advancement, dedicated to developing the cultural and philosophical frameworks necessary for eventual access to higher technologies. And throughout Confederation space, a new warning appeared on all navigational charts. Nota C. Human territory ahead. Advanced civilization under PRECURSOR directed live protection. Diplomatic clearance required for all APPROHHs. The greatest revelation wasn't that humans possessed superior technology. It was that advancement without wisdom was no advancement at all. The quarantine had never been meant to contain humanity. It had been meant to protect the galaxy until it was ready for the truth. And perhaps someday it would be.